Hello, once again, I'm Pat G for Riff-Mag.com, giving my analysis of the new Agonist album, Prisoners. I like the Agonist a lot, for reasons other than the absolute beauty that is Elisa White-Gluz. Not really. I got into the Agonist like most people through Lullabies for the Dormant Mind, a great album with a lot of feeling and heart, and showed a lot of great sound that isn't really replicated too much. The band's sound really stems from its uniqueness. It's an almost metalcore in its basic structure, but the small tweaks and additions make it a one-of-a-kind metal experience. Elisa's range as a vocalist is downright remarkable, being able to go from intense growling to operatic singing at the snap of a finger. I can't snap. The last album also featured an a cappella version of Swan Lake, which is breathtakingly beautiful in its arrangement and execution. But it's time to talk about the new album, which apparently took 3 years to make, and I have a copy of this album. I actually bought it too, because they're making a pretty big deal about that. Oh, and it's the law. The album opens up with the commanding and borderline threatening "You're Coming With Me," and I think it's a good opening for an Agonist album. It follows the same tradition of the previous album, starting off with a really fast, heavy song that establishes Elisa's harsh tones and melodic choruses. And right off the bat, I can tell there's a lot more multi-track vocals in here, combining both the melodic and growling aspects of Elisa's voice, which has a great effect. And the guitar parts of this song really complement the vocals perfectly, and they're incredible. From the first time listening to it, I knew this was going to be one of my favorite Agonist songs, and so far I've pretty much kept that belief. The Escape is actually the third attempt to write this song, as explained by Elisa White, and she was never really satisfied with how it came out. And in the end result, it's pretty good. I'm not going to say it's one of my favorites on the album, but it's got some pretty good moments to it. Predator and Prayer I like because I think it has the most classic sounding riff on the album. It almost sounds like it was heavily influenced by Iron Maiden. And it continues my belief that adding children singing to any song will immediately make it 10 times scarier. Yes, I'm talking to you, Ghost River. I do feel on this song that Elisa's vocals are a little forced, but to be honest, so far that's the biggest complaint I have. Anxious Darwinians is a pretty decent track, but I just can't find myself getting invested into it the same way I find myself getting involved in the rest of their catalog. And I think it might have to do with the fact that I'm listening to this all the way through. And herein lies the major problem I have with this album. It doesn't really flow very well. While picking and choosing tracks is pretty good, when you have to go from one song to the next, you begin to lose interest pretty fast, and it doesn't really matter where you start. Except if you start at the end, because then all you really have to go on there is a blank time slate on your iTunes. And come on, that's just silly. Panophobia is where it starts to get me involved again, as the thing that always brought me more interested in this band are the choruses. I feel the riffs can range from amazing to boring, but the choruses have always been different and always interesting. I like the way that the operatic parts are mixed in very lightly in the background and focus is given more to the traditional singing part with a great guitar backing. Ideometer was written in a different style that she describes as automatic writing, which is where you just keep writing and then go back and self-analyze. And I tried to write a couple songs like that and it just didn't pan out very well. Alright, I've got 2 lines of an original song, about 4 lines from Die for Metal, and my grocery list. The crescent moon rises and stares in a luminescent glory. They can't stop us, let them try. 2% milk and jello. But this works out for them because Ideometer is actually my favorite track on the album. I really love the solo, the separation of parts, and the overall dynamic the song gives. It's almost as if the song is jumping out at you and saying, "We put a lot of effort into this. Listen to it." If I had to describe it in comparative terms, I'd say the song is paced almost like an Arch Enemy song, between the heavy vocal-based chorus, the melodic undistorted bridge, and the awesome instrumental parts at the end. If anything, I'd say the album is worth buying just for this song alone. That's not saying the other songs aren't bad either. Lonely Solipsis took me a couple of listens to get into, but it's a very heavy, complex piece. Dead Ocean is a really gloomy selection with a really jazzy ending, which I dig, yo. Really wish I could snap. Mass of the Earth has a lot of energy right from the get-go, but I think it sounds a little like a Paramore song, and I mean, I'm not a Paramore fan or anything. I'll call you back. I really like the acoustic parts of Everyone Wants You Dead and all the different styles that come off the last track, Revenge of the Datist, and they mix really well together. If you listen to the different parts of the song, you'd swear it was 7 different tracks. I guess what I'm trying to say overall is that the album has a lot of variation in style of playing, singing, and production, and where it stands out the most is where I like it the best. So let's wrap up how I feel about the album as a whole. First of all, it's awesome. Each part on the album is well represented, well produced, and damn powerful. I know I talk way too much about Elisa's range as a vocalist, but it's really a driving point of the band. When I try to get people into the first few Scar Symmetry albums, I have to convince them that it's all one singer. And I have the same problem, and joy when I correct them, in getting people into this band. And this album really shows off all the aspects of her guttural and harmonic capabilities. I do wish they had included a small aria to express her more operatic style like they did in Lullabies, but I think it shines through pretty well here in almost every song. especially Ideometer and Mass of the Earth. On a listening basis, while I do think the album is great, it gets a little boring after a while. One continuous listen this album does not make. A few songs are jumbled in their order, there's no real continuity between the tracks, and a lot of it sounds the same. The longer tracks are where I find myself getting really engaged in the band and looking for more, but there's a few generic sounds from the band that I think ruin the moment while listening to it. But there is definitely more poetic and creative songwriting than there is filler, and that makes for a pretty fantastic experience overall. Please pick up a copy today, put your favorite tracks on the iPod, experience the best that Canada has to offer in terms of amazing metalcore. That is until the new Protest the Hero comes out, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Until next time, I'm Pat G for Riff-Mag.com, once again reminding you that life is too short to listen to bad music. Peace.